got this comment asking to do a mindset breakdown on Karen Smith from Mean Girls. And at first, I went, I love her, but how do I do a mindset breakdown of someone who barely thinks? But then it got me thinking about her character and Mean Girls. And boy, was I wrong about Karen Smith being the side character. Don't believe me? If you actually watch what happens to everyone by the end of that movie, the dumbest girl in the group quietly walks and wins the most. Regina gets hit by a bus, Katie loses herself trying to become Regina, Gretchen drifts into new friend groups, but still stuck in gossip and still miserable. And Karen? She stays unbothered, unemotional, and somehow completely untouched by the chaos she's standing in the middle of. So, today, we're going to talk about how being dumb like a fox and playfully underestimated can actually be one of the most powerful positions you can hold, especially as a woman. Welcome back to the Boss Babe Blueprint, and today we are decoding the Karen Smith mindset. Now, I want to start with an uncomfortable question. What if the writers of Mean Girls were never actually making fun of Karen and were secretly showing us what effortless security looks like? Think about the plastics for a second. Regina needs control, needs to be feared, and is constantly managing everyone around her. Gretchen is your classic people pleaser archetype, addicted to gossip because in her head, information is the only power she thinks she has. Katie claims she hates Regina, but slowly turns into her and only realizes it when everything has already fallen apart. And then there's Karen, fully aware she's failing her classes, but just wants to go to Taco Bell and have a good time. I'll never forget this scene where Regina is on her all-carb diet, eating those weight gain bars. And that's when Karen's iconic, "let's do something fun, let's get Taco Bell" line comes up. Of course, Regina snaps, saying, "You're so stupid." And soon after, when Katie tells Karen, "You're not stupid." However, Karen doesn't get emotional or take consolidation from Katie. She just goes, "No, I actually am. I'm failing at everything." And that line is so important because at that very moment, out of all the four girls, she was the only self-aware one in the scene. Because Regina was stupid to believe that eating Caltine bars would get her to lose weight. Gretchen was stupid to believe that she was a good friend. Katie was stupid to believe that she was doing all this just for Janice and Damon. But Karen, she was the only one who radically knew and completely accepted the reality of the situation. She has this unusual combination of self-awareness and self-acceptance. I know I'm failing, and I'm okay with it. And that alone makes her incredibly hard to control. Because how can you threaten a girl if she's not even playing your game? Yes, Karen is underestimated throughout the movie, but being underestimated only hurts you when you crave validation. And if you don't need that validation, it just becomes a strategy. And this isn't just fiction. A real-life example of this is Marilyn Monroe. She wasn't dumb, she was extremely smart. She ran production companies and was one of the most successful female in showbiz. But in public, she leaned into the dumb blonde image, not because she believed it, but because she understood that if she showed how smart she really was, she would scare people, especially men, and that would result in her losing opportunities. So she let people underestimate her, and she used it. That's exactly what Karen does. She doesn't fight to look smart, she just opts out of the drama, and because of that, she walks away untouched. And that's the Karen mindset. There's another scene where this becomes very clear. It's that iconic phone call scene, the one where Regina, Gretchen, and Karen are all on the phone at the same time. At one point, Gretchen pulls Karen into the gossip and asks, "If someone says something bad about you, wouldn't you want to know?" And Karen just says, "No." That "no" is wild because every other girl in this movie would rush to find out who said what. They'd want details, names, and they'd want to defend themselves. Karen doesn't. She simply refuses to enter the drama. And that refusal turns into an advantage because she doesn't react. People stop seeing her as a threat. Regina talks freely around her because she assumes Karen is harmless. Gretchen overshares because she assumes Karen can't use the information. Katie opens up because she assumes Karen doesn't even understand the stakes. But Karen understands enough. She hears everything from everyone. She ends up being the only one with access to both sides of the conflict without ever asking for it. I've seen this happen to me in real life too. In my very first job, I was given access to a lot of insider information, client acquisition, behind the scenes details that most people didn't get, and a lot more. But there were people who were much better than me in the job who were never chosen for these roles. And one day, my boss casually said something like, "I wouldn't trust anyone else with this, but I trust you." And the reason wasn't loyalty. It was because he thought I wasn't smart enough to copy his business. He assumed I didn't fully understand the stakes. And that's when it clicked for me. There were people around me who were objectively smarter, more experienced, probably more capable. But they weren't given that access. I was, because I was underestimated. When people think you're harmless, they stop guarding information. They speak freely. They loop you into everything. And that's the advantage. When you're underestimated, you end up with access to all sides, all conversations, all context. And that's exactly the Karen Smith position. Because Karen doesn't just stay unbothered. She does something that completely flips the power dynamic, and most people miss it. Later, when Gretchen tells Karen, "Regina thinks you're she just pauses and says, "She said that?" And then she lets it go. She doesn't confront Regina George because Regina never loses a confrontation quietly. She doesn't defend herself because it wouldn't change anything. And she doesn't spiral because she doesn't hand her self-worth over to Regina's opinion. And that's one of my favorite traits of Karen. She doesn't waste her energy on things that don't matter to her. Most girls are trained to explain and defend. Karen doesn't do any of that. She never gives the speech, she never sets the record straight, she never tries to be understood by people who don't want to understand her. And here's the real lesson. When you don't fight the assumption, people will reveal their true self. Just like how Regina did on that phone call.
Boo, you whore.
And there's another layer to this. Regina didn't bring Karen into the group out of kindness. She brought her in because Karen was the prettiest girl in school, and Regina wanted control over that. But Karen doesn't care. Regina wants to be the spring queen, but Karen just wants to draw a K on the mirror, backwards. That's why Karen is the emotional light of the movie. Without her, Mean Girls is just insecurity, power struggles, and catfights. Karen softens it. She refuses to bleed for an hierarchy that she never asked to join. And her win is not flashy, it's psychological. While Regina, Gretchen, and Katie burn energy trying to climb a social ladder that doesn't love them back, Karen builds a life outside of it. By the end, she becomes a weather reporter. It's funny, but it's also symbolic. She does her own thing, unbothered and happy as always. So, how do you use the Karen mindset in real life without pretending to be dumb or shrinking yourself? You don't copy her behavior. You copy her relationship with life. Karen doesn't treat everything like a battle. She doesn't wake up ready to fight. She doesn't turn every comment into a crisis. She picks what's worth her energy, and most things just aren't. She doesn't prove herself to people who already decided how they see her. She doesn't chase respect from people who feel better when they feel above her. And honestly, she's just having fun. That's the part people miss. Karen enjoys her life. She goes to Taco Bell, she laughs, she draws a K on the mirror. She doesn't sit around managing her image. And because she's not tense, not reactive, not constantly defending herself, life moves easier around her. People reveal themselves faster. Drama dies quicker. And she has energy left for things that actually make her happy. Being taken seriously matters. Of course it does. But so does being light. So does being calm. So does not turning every moment into a performance or a power struggle. And maybe that's the real lesson Karen teaches. Not every insult needs a response. Not every assumption needs correcting. Not every hierarchy deserves your attention. Sometimes the strongest move is knowing exactly what's going on and still choosing to enjoy your life anyway. And that's it for today. If this video gave you a new way of looking at Karen Smith, go ahead and subscribe. That really helps me keep making these mindset breakdowns. And before you leave, let me know in the comments which unconventional character's mindset breakdown would you want me to do next. Also, if you want to support my channel, please watch one more video on the channel. Thanks for hanging out with me. I'll see you in the next video. Bye bye, loves.